Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak to the sale and supply of alcohol cellar door tasting amendment bill. This bill is, I must say, common sense, and that's something New Zealand First supports. Firstly, I'd like to say New Zealand First supports this bill. The 8 members have given me the proxy vote to be able to vote in favour, so we will be voting 8 votes for you to support this bill to go to the next reading. The wine industry in New Zealand is a growing industry, and where I'm from in Marlborough is an industry that keeps on growing. And we talk now of a $3 billion industry. This is an industry that has put New Zealand and places like Marlborough on the map. A $3 billion industry that is growing, and out of a $3 billion industry, that's created a massive amount of tourism. And where I'm from in Marlborough, tourism and wine tourism is a massive thing. People specifically come to visit Marlborough, to see the vineyards, to visit the cellar doors. Where I am also in the heart of Renwick, what is the heart of the wine industry, people come and they go from cellar door to cellar door. And it is a thing on the weekends. My wife and I do it. We go around and we visit the cellar doors. Generally we don't walk. Generally we start on the bike, and we get off to the first cellar door, and we go along and we visit. By about the 3rd cellar door, the bike's probably put away and we're walking along. But the cellar door concept is such a great thing for tourism, and it's a great thing for linking up businesses. So as you go along and you visit this, different offerings, and those different offerings are growing, and the offerings that are put out there, it is a reason to come visit. And it's not just about international tourism, it's local tourism. So everyone comes to visit and has to look around. So in Marlborough, for instance, we've got over 80% of the wine industry. And that's something we are really, really proud of, and something we want to promote. Tourism, as I say, it's one of my favourite things, it's one of my portfolios. And when you think of it, people come into the Marlborough Sounds, the beautiful Marlborough Sounds. We all know where that is. People come in, they come in on the cruise boats, and they get off in Picton, and they get on the bus, or they get on the flyer or onto the train, and away they go, and they go off to the cellar doors. So once they get to those cellar doors, the offering's there, but the winery cannot charge. In most cases, they cannot charge. It's not common sense. So all of a sudden, the businesses are giving away their product. And what the most ironic thing was through the submissions, and we heard this through the submissions, is businesses, and for one particular submission, they said their bottles of wine were worth between $70 to $90, and they were giving away 8 of them a day. You do the maths on that. $700, $800, $900, and they're not getting nothing in return. And here's the rub. The rub about it, this is the rub about it. Those same people that get off the cruise ship boat, they can't actually sell a bottle of wine to, because they can't take the bottle of wine back onto the cruise boat. So the only thing about that is the person gets the offering, the person gets to go on the trip, but the actual business doesn't get to make any money out of it. So this bill allows a small charge to cover the cost of that tasting. That, to me, is common sense. The Justice Committee, chaired by our leader, by our chairman, James Meagher, we heard over 72 submissions came in, but we heard a number of submissions, and we'll be hearing a lot more. Those submissions, they were an eye-opener. We heard from submissions from large producers. We heard from those little Bontique wineries as well. And the majority of those submissions were in support of being able to charge to cover their costs. Red tape, and we've heard a lot about red tape on this side of the House. This is getting rid of a silly piece of legislation, something we can change quickly, make businesses, the wineries, more profitable. So it is really through the campaign, through the election campaign in Kaikoura, I first heard about this bill, and I heard what Stuart Smith had done. He'd put this in as a members' bill, and it had been pulled out. And I must say, even campaigning at that stage against Mr Smith, this was well received. Everywhere we went, he could get up and actually say, this is something that I can achieve, something that will do really good for the industry. And I must say, I couldn't say anything bad about it. It was actually a really good idea. Then hearing the submissions through the Justice Committee, hearing the arguments for and possibly against, it was by far favoured. And we actually heard in the first reading, I think it was one of the bills that was the most supported of any bills going through the first reading. But it was also well supported through those submissions that we heard. What we are trying to stop here is a free-for-all. So anybody who would want to vote against this, I would say to you, why would you want to vote for a free-for-all? Because that's actually what you've got at the moment. You can turn up, my wife and I on that bike, first winery, have one, have two, and there's no limit. Maybe we get back on that bike and we'll go to the second offering, and you just keep on going and keep on going. No offering of food, no offering of water, but a lot of offering of wine. So it makes a lot. I've already forgot the bike. I don't know where the bike is anymore. So it makes a lot of sense to stop that. So common sense, responsible consumption. So we can get responsible consumption, we can actually charge. So it's actually going to make a situation, where when you turn up, you're actually going to think a lot more about what you're purchasing, what you're tasting, because you are going to be charged for it. So also there's going to be the offerings of food and the offering of water. So, Madam Speaker, I think also another thing through the submissions was the size of the samples. And it was quite surprising to hear the size of the samples ended up being quite contentious. I think originally in the bill it was a 40 ml pour. And through that and through maybe some members on the other side of the House, it has been reduced to 35. A standard pour of wine is 30 mils. And we heard from the sponsor of the bill, Mr Smith, the people, they have wine glasses specially for the wine and as it's poured. So that's done all in a controlled way. So 35 mils, 40 mils, to me, that doesn't make a lot of difference there. The provision of having the snack food there is something, again, is of common sense. Having provisions of around water and giving people water and provisions of food just makes sense. I think also some of the definitions through the Justice Committee, we heard around the definition, and the other member on the House said that he is worried around the definition. But I think the definition gives enough ability to control who can sell and who can't. So that there, I believe, is also has been well thought through the Justice Committee. There was some differing views, and I think we're going to hear this as this proceeds through the House. And we did hear from brewers around craft beers. And around craft beers, that has to be something that has to be dealt with in a different bill. That can't be dealt with here. We've had a bill that with the scope, and we heard about scope through the Justice Committee. The scope here is not about bringing in other providers, not about bringing in craft beers. So I think what we have in front of us and the changes that we've made through the Justice Committee is common sense. New Zealand First will support this and where I commend this to the House. Thank you.